Last night was an interesting experience for me. I did something that I've never done before. No, I don't mean witness a Brummies win, although that was nice. No, for the first time I experienced Perry Bar as a supporter and not as a member of staff. And you know what? I really enjoyed it. Now, I guess having a Brummie win helped, but yeah, it was an enjoyable experience. Only in Speedway. Good evening, chaps. Everybody, welcome to the Speedway Tavern once again. How are you all doing?
Not too bad.
All good.
So, yeah, I mean, let's just pick up on that point. I've been watching Speedway. This is my 19th year now at Perry Bar that we've been going. And the first time that I witnessed it from the other side of the fence as a supporter. And, yeah, it was enjoyable. I really enjoyed it. As I say, Birmingham win always helps, but... Yep. It was just nice to walk home clean.
Not have to go for a shower afterwards.
Not have to go for a shower.
Not have to move tyres. So.
Yeah. I really should, at this point, give a shout out to all the people that are still working there and do that week after week, weekend after weekend, rain, shine, whatever the weather throws at them. They're there making the track raceable and, you know, make sure everything's spick and span as best as they can. Yeah. Unlike what's happening with the greyhounds at the moment, but more on that in a little bit, because that'll be part of my experience. So, yeah, that was that. A good performance by Birmingham.
Yeah, to be fair, it was quite a solid performance. I think young Sam Hagan obviously struggled a bit. I don't know what happened in the first hit, suspicion in my head is that he's forgot to turn his fuel on.
Whoops.
That was obviously Birmingham were on a 5-1 in that one, and you know, had that stayed as a 5-1, you could be looking at Birmingham maybe pushing for the bonus point, which would have been a real bonus for them.
Well, I mean, if Sam Hagan didn't have his last race and Ben Barker had been put in, I think he missed a trick there, possibly.
Yeah, that was possibly. Sam Hagan really shouldn't have had. It was tough on him, but he shouldn't have had 4 rides last night. I don't think. But you know, I think the rest of them certainly more than made up for it. Paco Castagna had a tough night, I think. Although he got a paid win in his first one. Tobias Muslek, I thought, was outstanding. I thought he was the best rider on view by a country mile. Keenan Ruiz had a few tough meetings, hasn't he? You know, he's had that foot injury, but he was back to what we've sort of got accustomed to earlier in the season with him. Matty Zagar struggled, I thought, you know, seemed a bit under power and, you know, not winning a race, of course. Just one of those nights for him. And Ben Barker, you know, there's been a lot of talk about Ben Barker's return, whether it was a mistake or not, but, you know, a crucial 5 points at the bottom end for him. So, yeah, Birmingham, I thought, you know, obviously Kingsley never led the meeting, and I suppose really once Kingsley got level in the last stage, there was a sense of deja vu.
Yes,
this is gonna go wrong again. But they dug in Birmingham and they got a win. You know, so it's in terms of the season. I think, you know, I don't think anybody's anticipating Birmingham getting anywhere near the top 4.
So we've had a few comments already. One of which I'm definitely going to take issue with in a moment. Sorry. I mean, to be fair, we did ride out our luck a little bit.
Kingston obviously were 2 riders down during the event, so yeah. I mean, Jankovic obviously, I don't know whether he did it in the first stage, but he'd obviously ended up having to withdraw for the meeting. But he you would have expected more than 4 points from a Grand Prix rider riding at reserve.
Yep.
Ben Cook's has not had a great season so far, but obviously he struggled in his first 2 rides and then withdrew from the meeting. Richard Lawson, who's done well at Birmingham in the past, he was a bit under par, I thought, as well. He only scored 7. Obviously, made a flying gate in his in the heat that he did win.
Yeah, and let's be absolutely honest. It was a gate to paradise last night. I think you needed to get out.
I mean, obviously, you've been aware of the blue groove on the track from watching it from close quarters, but obviously from where you were last night, you were obviously had a great view of it from the top, and. Yeah, it's been, the track's been difficult this season. I don't think anybody's going to dispute that.
Which
But
brings me to the comment that I'm going to take issue with. I've got to find it first, so you might need to go down. There we go. Jeff Daniels said the track problems again with 2 riders withdrawing due to rough conditions, and Clint critical of the track also. I don't think they withdrew because of the rough conditions. I think they withdrew because they were injured. Mm-hmm. I think that's the bottom line. And have you been to Kings Lynn? When they have it as a played field, that's rough. Have you been to Sheffield? That they have theirs.
I haven't seen. To be honest, I haven't seen Nikolai Clint's interview.
That's not a criticism of those tracks at all. By the way, that's just Speedway tracks generally tend to be rough, and those bikes have no suspension to speak of.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't seen Nikolai Clint's comments, to be fair, but. Certainly,
I haven't either.
Certainly the first 3 races. I mean, he was flying, wasn't he? He didn't. It looked like he was going to be untroubled, and then missed 2 gaps in his last 2 races, and only scored a point in those 2. So
that's sort of the way Nikolai Clint very often works, though, isn't it?
He didn't jump any of the starts, which was quite a miracle as well. Because
I'm glad you said that, not me.
To doing that.
So Elliot Hunt says, what do we think about the Clint interview after the meeting? Well, we didn't hear that.
I haven't seen it, no. I'll have a look at that after the show. So
Phil Taylor said, how did the Gladiator Ben Barker ride? The Brummie Ben Barker rode... I've got to do that. Rode really good.
5 points from reserve. Can't really ask for more than that,
I'd like to sort of put this out on record. I don't think that... People seem to think that I have had a problem with Ben riding for Birmingham. That's not the problem that I've had. Mm-hmm. The problem that I've had is we have a Birmingham team that's, 8 points under the limit, and that's the problem I have. I think Ben and the other riders are in a bit of a can't-win situation, really. Mm-hmm. A lot of the riders are riding out of position.
Yep.
Jefferson being the one, he should be in the reserve.
He rode well last night.
He did ride well, but how much better would he have been at reserve?
Yeah.
So, I think, and I know Paco struggled a little bit last night, but riding at number 2 is always difficult. Mm-hmm. And we got that 5-1 in the first heat, which, he played a part just for once, we started off.
Yeah, just for once, Tobias Music had a good first heat as well. Because
that's the first heat that I think he's won, certainly at Perry Bar.
Yeah.
So, yeah. Right. So, I'd like to make this observation, actually, about Perry Bar and about the way it works. And this is not the fault of anybody. It is just life and just the way it is. Obviously, previously when I've come to Perry Bar to work, I park on the VIP car parking. I have no problems getting parking spaces or any of that sort of thing. But it's very, very noticeable to me last night that it's really difficult to park at Perry Bar. It's really difficult to get there through all the traffic at that time of night. And I've got to say that a lot of people have said that, well, perhaps Birmingham don't deserve Speedway because they've never been able to get the crowds. And I would have to say that having experienced that last night, that has got to be a big reason why we've never been able to build up on crowds, because it's tough to get there.
It's a tough place. It's right in the centre of Birmingham, but it's certainly not the easiest places in Birmingham to get to.
It's really, really tough to get to.
It's got 2 busy main roads, on either side of the stadium, they are busy.
They're difficult to navigate as well.
They're difficult to navigate, and they are busy, especially at that time of the day, because it's 2 main thoroughbred.
I know the area well. But it's touch and go sometimes where you're going to get over into the right lane and to go the direction. If you go the wrong direction,
you've got to go all the way around.
A long way around then, haven't you?
And the parking as well. As I said, the parking isn't easy. It's a very small car park at Perry Bar.
It's
of course,
tiny, isn't it?
They had the advantage of being able to use the one-stop shopping centre,
which
now, of course, they're not able to do so.
And when we was able to use the one-stop shopping centre was the days when we got a lot better crowds than we have now.
Yeah.
I think it's paid. Obviously, the results have played a part in it recently. Yeah. But I would say over the years, the difficulty of parking must have played a part in keeping the crowds down. Yeah. And if Birmingham is ever to come back, and I'm holding and clutching onto straws here, of course, that's something that they need to get right.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. Nick Blunderbuss Green, I don't know this name. That's a new one. Good evening, Nick. Good evening, guys. What do you think is going on at Workington?
We don't know, do we?
We don't know.
It's been kept very, very hush-hush at the moment. There's all sorts of rumours flying around about what things are.
What rumours have you heard, or are we allowed to say these rumours?
Probably best not to go into them deeply today. Let's just have a look at. I'll read the statement that Workington did release in the wake of it. There, Workington Speedway acknowledged the statement released by British Speedway Promoters Limited regarding a temporary 7-day suspension of our membership due to administrative matters. We wish to reassure our supporters that we are working closely with the BSPL and the Speedway Control Bureau to resolve these matters swiftly and effectively. The club has made positive progress already, and we are confident that all outstanding issues will be addressed within the 7-day suspension period. While we're naturally disappointed that this pause in racing affects our scheduled fixtures at Berwick, Oxford and Redcar, we fully understand the decision and appreciate the guidance provided by BSP Chairman Rob Godfrey. I think it's been a struggle for Workington all season, though, hasn't it? I think, by all accounts, their crowds have been very, 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 very low. I think the fact that it's a Saturday afternoon probably doesn't help because, of course, they've got no floodlights there. And I mean, they obviously went back in. They came back into the league in 2022 at the Northside track, and they only had one season. Of course, what was it? 2 seasons in the league, and then straight back into the championship. So, from what I've been told, I think they wanted to stay in the National League and sort of put some proper foundations in place, but they sort of had their arm twisted to going up into the championship to sort of make up the numbers. And maybe if things change, and I've heard, I'm not going to speculate on rumours that I've heard, but they are from quite reputable sources that there might be changes next season, and whether that means if they can get running again, and we sincerely hope they do. It's certainly it's a track that's had rave reviews, isn't it?
Absolutely.
It's a track that I'd love to hopefully next year I might be able to get up there at some point. So, but hopefully they can sort it out, and maybe they will drop back into the National League, which probably I think for them would have been the better option to have stayed there if they had the chance to do so.
Okay, now before we go any further, and we've got a few comments that we need to address as well. People keep asking me, and they keep asking you the question: if Birmingham's not running next year, is the Speedway Tavern going to be running? Yeah.
Oh, definitely, yeah.
Absolutely, definitely going to be running.
Yeah.
And hopefully we'll be moving things on a little bit. I have a few ideas of directions that we can go.
We are called also the UK Speedway Tavern as well, so it is in the UK. So
although we started off as a programme that was originally about Birmingham Speedway, we then sort of, with Cradley and Wolverhampton being around, and Coventry a little bit, we sort of opened it up to those, and then we just... It just made sense for it to be a UK-wide thing, so that's what we will continue to do.
Yeah, as we said off air, there isn't really anything. There's nothing really like it at all anywhere.
Yeah, we think we pretty much feel that we're quite unique as a podcast in the fact that
we're the only ones that do it live, I think. Aren't we?
Yeah, we do it live, and we read all your comments out and answer all your comments as best as we can, which is probably sometimes not very good, but we do the best that we can.
I don't think the BSBA one, they would read the comments out on theirs, to be honest. They'd have to vet a lot of them.
Absolutely. People not getting paid at Workington, says Rich Thomas, same old story with Speedway. I think the problem with Speedway is cash flow. That's...
I read stories about what some of the riders are being paid, and it's completely out of court with what's coming in through the gates. And maybe there needs to be. Well, I think there does need to be some sort of thing done put onto spending to just stop clubs just spending money that they haven't got.
Right, we've got lots of questions that we need to get through here, so let's do that.
Go for it.
Craig Smith says, if Cradley came back as rumoured, and I have heard those rumours as well. I'm not in the right place for rumours anymore. Thank you. Will you sort yourself out, please?
Sorry, people keep posting.
If Cradley come back as rumoured, would you be a regular at Cradley or switch alliances, or would you always be a Brummies fan? Well, obviously you wouldn't be a Brummies fan because you're a
I know. I'd switch my allegiance. I'd switch my allegiance every week to whoever's riding.
Against Cradley. Yes.
That said, it would be fantastic if Cradley come back.
Absolutely,
it would be brilliant.
I would certainly go and visit Cradley as much as I could in those circumstances.
Yeah.
I'm always going to be a Brummies fan, and I would turn up with my Brummies paraphernalia, so that everybody knew that I was a Brummies fan.
Yeah.
There'd be no green on my back. But like you say, it's a big club in Speedway, and we need to have them.
Yeah, and I think they are a club with the fan base that they've got. That once they got if they got something sorted out, I think. They were getting huge crowds when they were racing at Monmouth in the National League, and bear in mind as well that quite a lot of Cradley fans wouldn't go to Monmouth on principle, so you'd probably attract them back as well if they did manage to find their own venue.
Simon Corbett says off to Oxford next Monday versus Ipswich, first time since the Nielsen days with Cradley. See what it's like. Let us know. Yeah. Fred Graham says Workington, like Glasgow, struggling to have meetings this season so far. Weather at Glasgow for this Friday not looking good, and if this is called off, our next home meeting is not until the 18th of July. Unless the call-off meeting is rescheduled before that, of course, then that's always a possibility. But dearth of fixtures is a problem.
Especially at this time of the year as well.
Yeah, and it's difficult to keep people coming, I think.
Yeah, I've said before, I've never understood why clubs have great big long gaps in the fixtures, and then come the end of August, they suddenly go on a mad dash to try and cram everything in. It's almost like they don't realise it until the last minute and thought, we better get all these fixtures in quickly.
Absolutely.
And then you start getting the double headers, which I hate with a passion. So
yeah. Once you've watched one match, you've sort of had enough, haven't you, really?
That's it, yeah. Especially if your team's lost the first one, you've got another one.
Yeah. I think there might be a few more comments up above that. I'm sure there was. Okay, Phil Tyler says, Rider of the Week surely has to be young Cooper Russian, scoring 52, paid 54 from 3 meetings over the weekend. This young lad surely has a big future in the sport. You would think so? But we've seen riders.
We've seen this before. We thought Zach Vajtnik had a big future in the sport, didn't we? And sort of got himself into all sorts of problems in the end.
I think you shouldn't put pressure on them.
Yeah.
And I think until they get comfortable in their own body as they get older, you don't know how that's going to work out.
Yeah. But I do like the look of Cooper Russian, certainly. I think, certainly in terms of style, he reminds me a little bit of Adam Skornecki with the sort of style on the bike. Okay. Very, very similar to even as far as the tassels as well. I think he's got the tassels on his leathers, which Scorer had as well. So a bit like Joe Screen. He had.
And on that note as well, get your Rider of the Week in as well, please. Thanks.
Craig Smith says, our club's trying to maximise crowd numbers by bunching up fixtures in August, because of school holidays, maybe. It's a risky business.
But I've seen clubs go through all the way through August and not have a home meeting. That should be peak time of the season.
Should be peak time of the season, yes. Yeah. There are a few more above that if you want.
Sure?
Yeah, because there's one I keep seeing and I want to. No, you're going too far now.
You've been going too far a long time.
Yeah. With the negativity around the Birmingham result last week, it must be a huge relief as a fan to get a win last night. Absolutely. That wasn't... something about... Yeah, you're going the wrong way again. Simon Corbett says something about protecting themselves for Poland. I was hoping if I could work out what that was about, but I don't know what that was about.
Is this possibly riders being injured to not racing in Britain and then all of a sudden being when they turn in Poland?
Well, I don't think you can lay that one against Kvetch. He was here. He tried, and Ben Cook as well. So I don't think you can lay that against them.
Yeah.
So
I think we've called.
I think we have. This coming Monday, Birmingham are riding away at Bellevue with the NDT Balls team riding home the same night. Please support the junior team. Amen to that.
I've enjoyed the junior meetings I've seen at Birmingham this season. It's a shame really that the crowd for the last meeting against Plymouth was really poor, but it probably didn't help obviously that just down the road at Villa Park you had Guns N' Roses on at the same time. So
Yeah. And that again doesn't help with getting to the venue, does it? And I think Birmingham have been for a long time now tied up. They got the hands tied behind their back, essentially, with what's going on with the parking, losing quite a bit of parking as well. So yeah. Okay. There was something about not in Scotland, and it's to do with the kids. They're not on holiday at the same time, I believe. So that might be why they've got their meetings a little different. Daniel Reynolds says, "Hi chaps, have riders who ride in Poland worked out that with the demise of so many British clubs, their own earning potential is also in demise? Poland will soon hold a monopoly on earnings." It holds a monopoly on earnings now anyway, doesn't it, really? It's not just an English thing, is it? It's not just a British thing. It's
some
Sweden,
people would
Denmark.
say, I know one former rider has been quoted recently as saying that British Speedway is run for the riders and that the riders call the shots. Which is a big sort of accusation to make, but again, it comes down to what I've said about, I was in the pits before the National League Trophy meeting against Plymouth, and you look at some of the kit that some of the riders have got, it wouldn't have looked out of place at Bellevue in the Grand Prix pits, to be fair. So it's just, is a lot of it really necessary? I'm not saying go back to the old days of having the two bikes on the back of a low loader with an old tyre on there.
Why aren't you saying that?
Not saying that at all, but maybe just be a little bit more sort of reasonable.
Graham Drury used to say exactly the same thing. He used to see these guys turning up with their big vans and everything, and he was like, "We're paying for that."
I've seen riders turning up in these big posh vans, and they've got International Speedo rider on the back, and their experience equates to doing a few second halves at Perry Bar.
Well, Rich Thomas didn't mind a double header. Once saw Swindon beat a strong Sheffield side, including the Morans, Collins, Carr and Wilson, then losing to a very weak Kings Lynn with Einar Killingstead getting a 15-point max. No logic there. This is Speedway. If you're looking for logic, go somewhere else. Craig Smee, have to say Brady Kurtz has gone up another level this season. Last night he was on another planet. Emil very rarely gets past when he's out in front with fresh air, but Brady last night chased him down for 2 laps and squeezed past him on the outside, which looked effortless. Brilliant.
Sounded like it was a cracking meeting at Bellevue last night. Obviously, I've got BSN account, so I may well watch that at some point later in the week when I get a few minutes. So
yeah, sounds like a good watch.
But I think about it, that's another thing as well. The number of times now where riders sort of seem to go from one club to another from a different year, and you can't really build an affinity with riders because there seem to be. I mean, we saw a great example last night in Chris Harris, didn't we? I love Chris Harris to bits. He's been a brilliant servant to British Speedway, but
absolutely,
it's probably quicker to line up to right down the tracks that he hasn't ridden for, isn't it? He's that is it. Yeah. Do you remember that? I mean, do you remember that TV show called The Littlest Hobo?
Yeah.
That's Chris Harris, isn't it?
I'm going to say, yeah.
He just keeps moving on. So, that's
you're old.
Yeah. Possibly older than us after that comment.
This was in the 80s, by the way. So
Okay, you are old. Okay. Elliot Hunt, I was at the Oxford versus Leicester doubleheader on Sunday. It was a close meeting, 44-44. Or at Leicester lunchtime, with Oxford win in the superheat and Oxford 55, where have you disappeared, versus Leicester 35 on the evening. Good meet. That's not really a double header, is it? That's just 2 matches on the same day. That's not a double header. Mm-hmm. That's not what I think of as a double header.
No.
What do you guys think of the change Plymouth have made yesterday by bringing in Czech rider Kilmer for young British rider Ben Trigger? Personally think the championship should have some sort of rule in place to protect the young Brits in the teams. And there's that man Seymour again. There we go.
Sorry.
They ride for, as we don't want them drifting away from the sport if they don't get picked up by the clubs at Premiership and Championship level.
I agree with that. I think there should be some element of protection towards British riders. The Championship have never been great, I don't think, unfortunately. No. I mean, I was impressed with Ben Trigger. Obviously, we saw him at Perry Bar a couple of weeks ago. I was very impressed with him. Looked very stylish. And it's a shame, really, that Plymouth have dropped him for Kilmer. Kilmer's obviously a talented young rider, but I think a lot of fans would probably rather see a British rider racing in their team.
I mean,
Plymouth. Let's be brutally honest. Plymouth are not going to win the championship. I don't even think they're going to get in the playoffs.
No.
So
I think from a point of view, there are lots of advantages to having British riders in your team.
Yeah.
Are there not? It's cheaper.
Mm-hmm.
You get a little bit off their average. Also, that they have done things to try and make it more, shall we say, profitable to have British riders in teams. But then you get teams like, well, let's think of one, Birmingham.
Yeah. One
British rider. I mean, not now, but when we started the season, one British rider in the team. So how do you protect them? And I think this comes back to that old chestnut that we always talk about, which is that every club is its own fiefdom.
Yeah.
And they will do what they that they think is best for their club and sod the rest. So they don't care about supporting British riders per se for the good of Speedway. They're just thinking for the good of their personal little club, their fiefdom. And so this comes back to this
win
thing.
at all costs, isn't it?
So it comes back to this thing of, I think Speedway needs to be a franchise in the same way that they do it in America. You know, I think that would be the way forward.
Yep.
And I almost think we're going to get to a point where we'll have to restart Speedway, and I hope that when they do that, if they do that, it's done as a franchise.
I mean, about 10, 15 years ago, Ollie Olsen did an interview in the Retro Speedway magazine with Tony McDonald, and he actually said the best thing British Speedway could do is close down for a season, and have a good long think, and then come back. And when you think about it, 5 years ago, there was a perfect opportunity presented. It fell into their laps, didn't it, with COVID?
Yep.
Chance to sit there, look at everything, and instead, 2021, they just picked up where they left off.
Exactly, or tried to. I just want to read this one, but I haven't quite got. It's all there.
I think you just read that one, haven't you?
Oh yes, that is the one. Okay.
I'm surprised by this next comment. If you want to read that,
Pete Clark says, "I was surprised that Speedway clubs still sell club calendars with photos of last year's team."
No, they don't.
They do. Yeah, they do.
They do. Yeah.
I suppose. Yeah.
It's the only way you can do it. But it works because 9 times out of 10 you're going to get 50 or 60% of your team back the next year. But then you look, one of the things that hasn't helped Birmingham this year is that we don't know any of the riders.
Yeah.
At the beginning of the season, there was not one single rider that had ridden for our team before.
Yep.
That's just amazing.
You know, and I said it at the time.
It makes for a good dartboard if the team didn't do very well the previous season.
Well, there is that. Yeah. So, yeah. Christopher Black says, it is easy to sit and say protect British riders, but see if you're a northern club like Edinburgh, unless you're paying through the nose, riders like Ablett, who rejected Berwick and Edinburgh apparently, won't come that far north to ride, so you have to go foreign. Now, I think this is something that gets sorted out if you've got a franchise, if it's done as a franchise, and there are drafts and all that. I think that would be the way to go.
The American way, you mean?
Yeah.
And draft system, I think, is a great idea.
Yeah, I think that would be a much better way. Given the way Speedway is, that would be a much better way of doing it in this country.
Depends on who manages the draft, doesn't it? Because if it's managed by the people that run the clubs, you're going to get straight away. You're going to get people.
Well, that's how a franchise works, isn't it? Somebody's on top that hasn't got the franchise, so hasn't got a club. Who lays down the rules? Otherwise, there wouldn't be a franchise. Otherwise, would it? But so,
and also the money's got to be there in the first place, hasn't it, for a franchise?
Yeah,
for the riders.
Yeah. So I think that's I mean, I'm not a businessman. I don't know he set it up, but that's what you need. You need a businessman, and you need a franchise, and it needs to start again.
A maverick.
In my opinion. And what do I know?
Nothing.
You know
nothing.
I know nothing. Absolutely. Okay, so rider of the week. We should have a think about that.
So Cooper Russian is
the only.
I'm going to say Keenan Rowe. I thought he was excellent last night.
Keenan
thoroughly deserved his place in the last eight, didn't he? So,
he did, yeah. I mean, I was thinking of going Brady Kurtz, but I didn't actually see that, so I'm going to have to go Keenan Rowe as well. Actually,
there you go.
Although Tobias Music was obviously excellent as well, as we said. So
no, Simon, that isn't rider control.
No. Rider control is before me, but that caused no end of problems, didn't it?
Okay,
rider control is where the BSPA or whatever is currently running any particular organisation turns around and says, no, you can't have that rider. No, Ollie Olsen, you can't ride for Coventry. You've got to go and ride for, Hull?
Hull, wasn't it? Yeah.
That's a draft is.
In fairness, Olsen got his wish in the end, didn't he? Because he did end up at Coventry, so.
A draft is where you get picks, and you can so that the team that finished last year would get the first pick of the new crop of riders, essentially.
There's a good question on YouTube from Nick. I won't say Blunderbuss. Nick Blunderbuss Green. How do Berwick keep going, bearing in mind the population of the town is only 13,000 or around there?
Answers on a postcard.
Exactly.
I don't know.
I mean, because another thing you got to think of, I think Birmingham, it's one of the most. Probably got one of the biggest catchment areas in Europe.
I go back to this thing that it's so difficult to park around Perry Bar.
But yeah, it's not going to happen.
If we got 1% of the population of Birmingham to come and watch Speedway, we'd have the most successful Speedway team in the country.
Yeah.
But they wouldn't be able to park.
Yeah.
Simon Corbett said Lee Harrison. That's not a bad shout. He got his first win.
Well, first when he went in the top league, it would be a Perry Bar, wouldn't it?
Well, yeah.
So who is Toby?
Toby Mushlak.
Rider of the week.
Mushlak.
He was excellent last night.
Yeah, he was good last night. He won the first heat.
Class act. Really good, classy rider.
Yeah, I've really warmed to him as the season's gone on, to be fair. Phil Taylor, I mentioned about a draft situation type to Matt when he was down at Plymouth earlier in the season. Personally think it would even out the teams.
You've got a better memory than me, Phil. I remember that.
He's had a drink since then, Phil.
He was probably drunk at the time, though.
Yeah.
No, I had a long drive back the next day. I didn't touch the stuff. So...
Yep, so we've once again catched up.
We've catched up.
Yeah. Shall I get you a dictionary for Christmas?
Yes, please.
Shall we take a look? Have we got time? Just about, I think. Have a look at the leagues and where everybody is.
Well, of course, we've got the Grand Prix coming up at the weekend as well, haven't we? So, okay, we'll start off.
Okay, Grand Prix this weekend. Schmarschlik. Okay, that's done.
We'll look at the tables first, then we'll have a look at the GP. So, at the moment in the Premiership, so you've got Ipswich 23 from 13, Sheffield 22 from 12, Bellevue 21 from 13, Leicester 16 from 12, Kings Lynn 12 from 14, Oxford 8 from 13, and Birmingham 6 from 13. So Birmingham actually not that far off getting off the bottom of the table. So
yeah, it's not going to happen.
Yeah. Well, certainly when they're losing 62-28 to the team that's one place above them, it's not a good sign. I was talking to people who were there, and it was a shambles, really.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I didn't go to that. Yeah. I just want to see some. Yeah, if I see some meetings like we had last night for the rest of the season, win or lose, I'll be happy. To be fair on that. Sorry, who did we say was at number one at the moment?
Ipswich. 23 from 13.
Okay, I mean, I still see nothing that changes my mind that they're the team to beat. Mm-hmm. And I think Kings Lynn have probably blown that top four slot.
I think Kings Lynn were outside of the top four. Kings Lynn were the ones that looked the most likely to muscle in, but I don't think you're going to be getting top four if you're losing at Birmingham. unfortunately. I know yesterday, obviously, there were mitigating circumstances. Obviously, getting 2 riders having to withdraw from the meeting didn't help. But I just think Kingston, I mean, they've been in good form as well, Kings Lynn. I mean, they pushed Bellevue to a last 8 decided in there, I think, and I think they did well at Ipswich as well. So it was, I think most people came with Perry Bar last night thinking that they were going to come away with a win. So, but it wasn't the case, unfortunately, for them. But no, I don't think you can look beyond the 4 that's in there at the moment. And of course, it's the same 4 that were there last season,
and the same 4 that we predicted at the beginning of the season.
We did, yes. So let's have a look at the Championship. Then, of course, only not too many matches into the Championship season. Of course, obviously we've had the BSN series that dominated the early stage of the campaign in that league. But at the moment, Poole on 11 from 6, Glasgow 9 from 5, Oxford 5 from 6, Workington 5 from 5, Redcar 4 from 4, Berwick 4 from 4, Scunthorpe 3 from 5, Workington 2 from just the 1 meeting. That's a big problem for Workington, the fact they've had so few meetings this season. And Plymouth at the bottom on 2 from 4.
Well, Workington's a problem anyway.
Yeah,
at the moment, and I wonder how that changes if their points that people have won against Workington are expunged. I wonder if that changes the situation.
Well, they've only had 1 meeting, haven't they? So there's only
they had away meetings.
No, just one home meeting.
Okay. So
so they've got 2 points. So that would be expunged. I'm not even sure, 100% sure who it is they beat. Actually, or they rode against. It was Plymouth. They beat Plymouth 12 points at home. So obviously that would give Plymouth extra 2 points, and they would go above. Obviously,
it wouldn't give them extra 2 points. Those points just wouldn't exist, would they?
No, yeah, of course.
So that's
absolutely.
So
but I mean, I think at the start of the season, I tipped Redcar, didn't I, to do well in that league, and they're currently 5th at the moment. Albeit, as I say, clubs only run 5 or 6 matches in that league at the moment, but. And then you've got your usual suspects, haven't you? You've got Poole and Glasgow.
Yeah, I mean, you can't. Can you see beyond Poole and Glasgow for the playoffs?
I think they'll be in there definitely.
And Poole have done a Poole again, of course.
Yeah,
with William Carnes.
Yes,
which we all knew was going to happen.
Yeah.
I mean, nobody didn't know that wasn't going to happen. But
yeah, I mean, Edinburgh are 4th at the moment, but Edinburgh are a bit of a funny team, aren't they? Edinburgh, they can look brilliant, and sometimes they can. I mean, they were comfortable when I went to see them at Plymouth, and they looked pretty comfortable in that meeting. I don't know how they ended up losing that. They should never have lost the meeting from the commanding position that they were in down there. But hats off to Plymouth. They battled hard in that one. So,
Pete Clark says a draft season sounds a good idea, but as some riders in that draft are still in education, most would reject long distances. It's a possible problem, but I don't think it's insurmountable. Particularly if we're in a situation where Speedway starts again.
Yeah,
there are ways around those things. I would imagine. I don't think it's insurmountable. I
agree with what Simon Corbett there actually says about Ipswich. Not that great. Brendan has gone backwards this season. I think he has. I don't think he's been as good as he was for Birmingham last year.
I don't think he had to be as good as he was.
Probably not.
I mean, it's possible. But we say Ipswich aren't that great, but they're still at the top of the league.
Yeah, they had a sticky spell, didn't they? And it looked like the problems that they had last season with injuries were going to come back and hit them again. But okay, and finally, let's have a look at the National League. So at the moment, Oxford on 11 from 6, Edinburgh 7 from 4, Steelers 6 from 4, Leicester 5 from 4, Middlesbrough 3 from 6, and Bellevue no points from their 4 meetings so far. So the National League, last few years, it's been a bit of a two-team battle, isn't it, with Leicester and Oxford. Oxford up there at the top at the moment. Of course, they beat Leicester, obviously, in the double-header on Sunday. So
I think potentially that league is the most important league in the country.
It's also probably the one league that did work a few years ago and now sort of lost its place, hasn't it, a little bit, with a lot of the silly changes that have been made.
Just because that, if we get to a situation where we do start Speedway again,
Birmingham, yeah.
Well, at anywhere now, if you just start Speedway, the whole of Speedway, if it sort of starts from scratch again in this country, which is sort of it's working towards, I think.
Yeah.
it's those riders and those teams that's going to form the backbone of it.
Yeah.
So potentially the most important league in Speedway at the moment. Potentially.
It's had tough times, hasn't it? Because losing Birmingham was a blow, losing Eastbourne, losing Cradley as well. I mean, Cradley, obviously the Cradley fans weren't liked by a lot of the clubs in the National League, but I think a lot of the promoters liked them because they generally got their biggest crowds when Cradley were there. So, and Birmingham obviously travelled well in that league as well, didn't they?
So Jeff Daniels has said draft will never work. Can you imagine Birmingham picking Kurtz or Bewley? They would never go there. And firstly, they couldn't afford them, sadly. That's not how a franchise works. That's not how a franchise works.
They'd have the money for it.
The wages would not be paid by the club.
Yeah, be the franchise.
It'd be paid by the franchise. It's done differently. It's a different way of doing it. And also what would happen is that their wages would be standardised.
Yeah.
Everybody would be getting paid equally for their level of a rider. So those are problems that wouldn't matter. Probably those riders probably wouldn't be riding in this country at that point. But I think that's where we are. I think we have to dumb it right down to bring it back up again.
Clive Woodard just made an interesting comment there. More riders need to be part-time. I mean, when I started watching Speedway in the 90s, I mean, you had the top 2 or 3 riders in the team were full-time riders, and the rest of them were sort of middle-order riders that also held down a full-time job as well.
Simon Corbett says, shouldn't there be an age limit in the National League? I'm not sure about that. Because
there's some pretty ancient riders that are pretty good, aren't they?
yeah, and they can impart their knowledge and stuff onto the. I don't know. I'm torn on that one.
Yeah, I mean, it depends on the rider, doesn't it? I think it was a bit of a nonsense that Adam Ellis kept going back into that league. At that stage, he was far too good to be fighting in the
I think
National League.
people weren't signing him, were they? Was the reason he did that. So at least he was kept to the sport.
So here's my stupid question of the week.
Okay.
So, I mean, you get old footballers or footballers that played football at top levels, stay in the sport and go on to either coach or, stay involved with the clubs. Is that a thing with Speedway?
A little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
But I mean, possibly more in places in Poland. I think that's certainly true. But in this country, so I mean, who have we got? There's Lemon. He used to be a rider.
Yeah.
I can't think of it.
Simon Stead, of course.
Simon Stead, yes.
But of course, Sheffield is his local club, isn't it? So,
yeah.
Peter Strauss, of course, at Oxford, he's obviously was a former rider many years ago. So,
I mean, the riders aren't coached, are they? Are they not? Are they coached?
Not as such. I think they are in Poland. I think they are.
Yeah.
I think our friend Mr. Rowe was telling us about that when he came on that time.
Yeah.
So
I think that's another way.
Yeah, but somebody's got to pay for it, and and at the moment the money's just not there.
We're thinking of this multi-million-pound franchise that we're going to get it.
Yeah.
You've got a spare, but maybe he's got a spare.
I've got £2.10 if you can take the rest.
Whole £2.10.
Yeah, whole £2.10.
That's your bus fare home.
I'd have to say, if I don't catch the bus home. Yeah. I mean, it's going to come to that. It's got to. Yeah, that's. How does it not come to that? We've got 7 teams in the top division. We're losing
9 teams in the championship.
How many teams are we losing this year?
Well, the one we know about, obviously in Birmingham. With there's rumours swirling about at least 4 or 5 other clubs as well. Workington, obviously, there's got to be doubts about Workington at the moment. So obviously, it depends on how long it takes for them to sort these problems out.
And we both know of a couple of other teams that things have been. I mean, obviously not going to say because there are only rumours at this point, but So
top riders do not mean top racing. Some of the GPs have dire racing. Says Darren Reynolds,
and some of them aren't. I mean, it's. Yeah, I mean, we from our National League days, we know that you can get good racing at that level.
Yeah. There is an element of I mean, I think perception of a lot of people over the National League is it's full of riders that just wobble around the track and fall off. And there is an element of that. There's some good riders in that league as well. So, talking to the Grand Prix, of course, we also obviously mentioned that. Of course, round 7 coming up in Sweden, Malmö. always, a tremendous racetrack. And with 5 Grand Prix still to go, I think, as well. So Walter Smolsik has won 3 Grand Prix out of the 6 so far. Only got an 11-point lead though over Brady Kurtz, who's keeping him in it. And it'd be interesting to see how Kurtz approaches the Swedish Grand Prix after that win last time out in Gorzov.
Yeah,
that's going to give him a huge lift.
Yeah, it's also going to put pressure on him because all of a sudden he's got to be thinking, hasn't he?
Yeah,
I've got a chance of winning this thing, which he has.
Yeah. I think it's a slim chance. Unfortunately, I think Smarsdick's experience is going to probably carry him over the line. But it's going to be interesting to see if he does get close to Smarsdick as we're coming towards the end of the season, how Smarsdick sort of copes with that, because he's not really been under pressure, has he?
Well, exactly. And the one time that he did come under pressure, he didn't win.
Yeah, with Lagusa.
Lagusa, yeah.
Well, he only lost it by 3 points, to be fair. So it was,
it would be nice to see. I mean, don't get me wrong. I actually I do like Schmarschlik. I like the way he goes about his business. I like the way he rides that bike. He's an exciting rider to watch.
Yeah, and of course, there's the potential history of only the 3rd rider to win 6 World Championships coming up if he can do it this year. So,
but it would be nice to see somebody challenge him.
It's whether they can do it consistently. I mean, a lot of people talking about Laguta, but we don't know whether Laguta was a one-season wonder. There's a bit of mistake, really, I think, about Laguta. Would he have been able to? There's been a lot of world champ riders who've won the world championship once, and they've not got anywhere near it after that. A lot of people thought Chris Holder would go on to win multiple championships. He never even got anywhere near. I know he had a lot of bad injuries, but
yeah, I mean that's always a part of Speedway, as we know. So that can happen. You don't see it happening to Schmarschlik. I really need to touch wood at this point. You don't see, it doesn't seem to be the people say, and I've heard people say that he puts himself about too much, and that but he's always in control. He seems to me. He never seems to be. He's on the edge of being on there, but
he does ride on the edge.
Good?
I don't think there's any doubt he rides on the edge, but he seems to, he's able to get out of trouble.
He's good.
He's able to just, quickly get himself out of bother if he gets into any, that is.
Christopher Black says that Kurtzwell fancies his chances on his former home Swedish track.
Yeah, he used to ride for Luxor Stars, didn't he, Kurtz? Right, Bewley and Kurtz both
rode for Dakar for 2 seasons. So. It sounds good, but tracks do evolve, and they can be, as we know at Birmingham, to our cost.
Well, having said that, I mean, Bewley had home track advantage at Bellevue, and he didn't look like he had home track advantage in the 2nd Grand Prix. I know he won the 1st one, but the 2nd one he was nowhere to be seen. So,
Simon Corbett says there should be a cut-off average for riders doubling up. Sam Masters, for example, shouldn't be allowed to ride. There should be no doubling up.
Well, when he came in, I think it was about 2001. It was under the percent it was only going to be for young British riders under the age of 21, and they could only do it for 2 seasons. And then it suddenly
that was still in place like that when we started in 2007.
And now you can have a whole team of riders that double up.
Yeah.
This is again,
and ride for a Swedish club, and ride for a Polish club, and ride for a Danish club on top of all of that. I mean, it's.
Unfortunately, you'll never get rid of doubling up, because the riders want the doubling up because they want the extra matings, and you can understand that.
Which is why you have to start again.
Yep.
Yeah.
That's the.
Crikey, I've just realised we've only got 10 minutes left, and we haven't done our prediction. We haven't touched the prediction league yet. There's not too many fixtures this week, to be fair, but we'll obviously have a look at our.
How did we do last week? How did we do?
Oh, pretty much.
Who's this Bat Muck at the top there?
How the hell's happened?
Oh, didn't we?
Oh, didn't you?
Yeah.
The person who put it together.
I can't follow. There I am. Okay.
Yeah, way down the bottom there. Way down the bottom.
So after week number 13, this is how we stand. So it is getting very, very tight now at the top. Andrew Garner still leads. He's led most of it, but his lead has been sort of cut in recent weeks by Rich Thomas. Chris is in there as well.
Not me. The good Chris.
Simon's still sort of
Chris.
Ninth, I think Simon is at the moment. So still within range, but hasn't really got.
That mug is slipping away. I don't mean that
Me and Chris just cannot separate ourselves.
No, I'm still on top of you. Oh, I hate saying that.
What if you have a bad week? You might switch positions, so.
Oh, don't say that. That's worse.
I didn't think you could make it worse, and then you did.
Right then, let's start off then with this week's fixtures. So first of all, we've talked about them a few minutes ago. They're going head-to-head tomorrow in the Championship pool against Glasgow.
Okay, and who are you going to upset your pick?
I will go.
Will that be William Carnes' first
I think it will be, yeah. I will go for Glasgow by 2.
Really? Interesting.
Glasgow by 6.
I hate to do this, but I'm going to go pool by 4.
Okay.
Okay,
next up is Sheffield against Birmingham. Dear me. I don't think this is going to be in a way. We'll be the best.
Oh, it's going to be up to me, isn't it?
It's up to you. Now, remember, we won last night. It's only Sheffield. I mean, I'm trying my hardest to get above him on.
Sheffield by 18.
Sheffield by 18. I mean, I'd probably take that.
Is that what you're going for?
I'm going to go Sheffield by 20.
I'm going to go Sheffield by 26. Can't see anything other than a comfortable Sheffield win, can you?
No.
Okay. Meanwhile, it's Leicester against Kings Lynn in the other fixture. Kings Lynn, I think if they're going to have any hope again in the top 4, they're going to have to go there and try and get a result. And Leicester are maybe been a bit vulnerable this season at home, haven't they?
We should say congratulations to Leicester, who knocked Ipswich, wasn't it, out of the Knockout Cup.
They're in the final.
Yeah. This vulnerability that Ipswich might be showing that people are talking about.
Yep.
It's up to me, isn't it?
Yep.
Leicester versus Kings Lynn. I'm going to say Leicester by 16.
Leicester by 12.
Well, I'll go in the middle. Leicester by 14.
Okay. Moving on to Friday, of course, the red card working to match has been postponed, for the reasons we've discussed. So next up is Edinburgh against Berwick.
That's up to you, Matt.
Edinburgh by 6.
Edinburgh by 10.
Let's go in the middle then. Edinburgh by 8.
Okay, Glasgow against Oxford is next up, so that's second against third as things stand in the Championship.
That's up to you.
Glasgow by 4.
Glasgow by 12.
Glasgow by 6 I'll go for on that one. Plymouth against Scunthorpe on Saturday is the next one.
Okay, that's down to me, isn't it? Yep. Scunthorpe by 4.
Plymouth by 4.
Plymouth by 8.
Okay, next up is Berwick against Edinburgh. So
I need to correct myself. Ipswich are still in the cup.
Yeah.
Leicester beat Sheffield.
Yeah.
I knew. Yeah.
Glad someone was listening. So. I certainly wasn't. So. Berwick against Edinburgh.
Berwick versus Edinburgh. That's up to you, Matt.
Berwick by 10.
I'll go Berwick by 14.
Berwick by 6.
Okay. And then on Monday, we've got quite a busy day on Monday. Kings Lynn against Sheffield.
And that's up to you, Chris.
Kings Lynn by 12.
Sheffield by 4.
I'll go Sheffield by 6. Oxford against Ipswich is the next one.
Oxford versus Ippo. That's up to me. I'm going to say, it seems strange given that, Oxford must be the best team in the world, mustn't they?
Well, they are in the race, Birmingham.
Ipswich by 4.
Ipswich by 12.
Ipswich by 6.
Okay, next up in the National Development Trophy, I think this is Birmingham's final home fixture in that, and they will be taking on the Kent Eagles.
That's up to you.
Kent by 4.
Kent by...
Is Daryl Richins going to be back?
Not sure.
That's a big...
Yeah.
I'm going to pretend that Daryl's back.
Yeah.
And I'm going to say Birmingham by 4.
Okay. And last up, while the Bulls are racing at Perry Bar, the senior team will be at Bellevue. Bellevue against Birmingham. That's the last fixture of the...
And that's up to you, Chris.
Was it Bellevue?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Bellevue by 18.
Bellevue by 26.
I'll go Bellevue by 20. Dear. And that's it. So
that could surprise us because Toby's riding really well.
It's a track he should like. And Zagar, he always goes well there, doesn't he? So who knows? But I think the odds are definitely stacked in Bellevue's favour in that one.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Well, my life, it's 2 minutes to go.
Yes, we did.
Thanks everyone for joining in. It's been a good one this week, I think. So.
Yeah.
We
will see you. Are we here next week?
Yeah. I've got a holiday for a couple of weeks.
Okay. I've got one coming up. But
for God's
sake. Another one.
We will see you, at any rate, next week. Have a good week, everybody. Enjoy your Speedway while you still can. Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
Good night.
Good night.
Welcome to the Speedway Tavern. Enjoy your stay. Welcome to the Speedway Tavern.